Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Everyone checking in on the market. So we had a gap down day, not surprising with the weakness we saw at the end of yesterday, closing down at the low just above our only nearby support. And then we shifted our sights to the weekly support level of 277.64. That level broke as well, but the bulls formed a bullish reversal candlestick on the daily time frame. So the question now is, have we changed the hourly trend? I look at the hourly time frame and it is certainly not a convincing trend change. We had the low of the day, the high of the bounce, held the low of the day into the end of the day, and then we did break resistance, but no follow through, and that all happened at the end of the day. So not convincing at this point. When we do see a bounce, we can say very clearly with our line in the sand on SPY that anything under 284.20 is just a daily lower high. So even if we get an hourly or 4-hour oversold bounce, certainly not going to be looking for any kind of massive daily trend change until we see a solid bounce, giving space for the bulls to create a higher low and then try and change that trend, considering SPY has not changed the daily trend since it went bearish. We had our all-time high, low the pullback, lower high, lower low, and then it's just been lower highs and lower lows since then. We did break some resistance, no trend change confirmation with a higher low and higher high. So the bears have kept control in that regard. The weekly time frame has now been pulling back for essentially a month in a row. We have lost the weekly uptrend support, not massively. Again, this is a very different scenario than what we saw back here in October, November, December. And the biggest difference is, look at the size of the candles and look at the volume. This is a pullback, yes, absolutely. We were certainly due for this pullback, and I don't see fear. There's not a bunch of fear in this market. Yes, we have the narrative of the Trump-China trade war headlines, and oftentimes we'll see the talking heads attribute a narrative to price action, and it can seem blown out of proportion. And again, I will always use this as an example, and I will never forget when Ebola, the Ebola scare in the US was the reason the market was crashing. And it wasn't crashing, it was just pulling back. But they were attributing Ebola to the market pulling back in that way. And I just couldn't, it just, technically I could see why we were pulling back. But you have to keep in mind that what the media and the talking heads do is try to convey to the herd, this is why this is happening. You can't say this is happening because a key, we were overextended and the RSI was overextended and we have not established a support level since the December low. The herd doesn't understand that. So they have to put it into storylines in order for there to be explanations. Absolutely, the China-Trump trade war is likely having a negative impact on the market. So in that regard, yes, it makes sense to pull back a little bit. But again, you show me this monthly time frame and you take away that red candlestick and I'd say, wow, we're definitely due for consolidation. And now we're seeing that consolidation. So SPY, anything above the December low is a monthly higher low. The question now is it brief consolidation to give the potential for continuation with a higher low and a new higher high of all-time highs? Or will the pullback be significant enough that we pull back and set a higher low compared to the December lows and then bounce, or it's enough of a pullback to look for an equilibrium with our higher low? Pretty much three scenarios. Bull flag heading for all-time highs, significant pullback but holding the December lows to look for an equilibrium through the rest of most of the year, or a complete dump to break the December low. That's the least likely scenario in my opinion, and I would say it's probably a 50-50 as to whether we get brief consolidation into continuation to a new all-time high, or some solid consolidation down to 260, 255, looking for what would be an equilibrium. And if we did get that pullback, I'd look for it to look something like that and get a break into the new year of that tightening range. So we'll get information. We'll get information every time we see a daily bounce. How much volume is behind it? How much space are the bulls creating? If we change the daily trend, do we get follow through? How much bounce do we get on the weekly time frame before we form a weekly lower high? These are all little clues. And so whenever I see analysts or people on TV or anybody just choose a position and then stick to it, why would you not react to the new information that we're given every single day in this market? You should be changing your opinions all the time. We're getting more information every single day. So don't feel like you have to say something, you know, this is what I think is going to happen and I'm sticking with this and I'm riding it out for months, because tomorrow we could get some completely different information. And if you've been watching these videos, you saw my sentiment very clearly shift as soon as oil broke $60 and confirmed that it is now in a weekly time frame or a weekly downtrend. And we'll look at oil in just a second here. But so the question tomorrow, can the bulls break 279.36 and try and bounce on this daily? And if we do, are we just going to set a lower high compared to 284.20 and stay in this daily downtrend? IWM on the daily chart also dropped to lower lows. Next support level that we're looking at on IWM on the daily chart, the next clear base is going to be down at 145.37. Looking at it on the weekly perspective, it's a more clear bear break, but again, I love these monthly timeframes for clarity. Equilibrium anticipated on IWM. We're scouting a monthly higher low compared to 125.81 sometime in the next couple of months. QQQ on the daily time frame. So pulled back as well today, gap down open. The weekly uptrend has now been technically lost on QQQ as well as SPY. Keeping in mind that we have now lost the uptrend, that doesn't mean we're in a weekly downtrend. To confirm a weekly downtrend, I need to see a lower high and a lower low. Then we're in a weekly downtrend, but we're in a limbo state now for SPY and QQQ, where I would answer the question, are we in a weekly uptrend? No. Are we in a weekly downtrend? No. So that might be a little bit odd, but that's the way that I view things until we see a clear lower high and lower low to confirm the trend change. So for QQQ, the next major support level, now that 176.60 has broken, is down at 169.34. Looking at it on the monthly time frame, anything above the December low is just a monthly higher low in this uptrend. And it's now an uptrend because we broke the all-time high, and the bulls have lots of space to work with to form a higher low. XLV, right down to support, double bottom by 2 pennies. I really wish there was a better leveraged instrument to trade for XLV. CURE is the 3 times bull, but it's illiquid, and I'm not going to trade it for that reason. So the bounce on the hourly, pretty weak. It looks like an hourly bear flag. Bulls really need some follow through from here because we have our pattern that we've been watching, the 2-day time frame for clarity. We have our high, low of the pullback, lower high, higher low, lower high, double bottom. So for the bulls to get follow through on this double bottom, we're going to have to see follow through tomorrow. The bulls want to see a break of 87.86. That would convincingly set our support level, and then we would look for a lower high compared to 90.85 and for this range to continue to tighten. Just like oil breaking $60 shifted my sentiment, if XLV clearly breaks this support level, that's going to shift my sentiment to favor the bears a bit more in the short term. XBI on the daily time frame has now broken resistance with no follow through and now broken support with no follow through. So it's definitely a choppy area. I liked it better when it was nice and crystal clear with its levels, but those levels not really being respected. And in my opinion, that's due to the overall market being the driving force behind things and the fact that XBI is in a tight range, SPY is not in a tight range. So that is where the discrepancy is in my opinion. But bottom line, we're looking at some key supports in the mid to upper $80 range. So 80.58, 80, 80.70s, holding those levels. And the key resistance for me is 83.77. If the bulls can get a little bit more space to work with and head up to $82 tomorrow, we'll still be sideways in this tight range. And we'll probably see a break on XBI from this tight range in the direction that XLV breaks, depending on how long it takes, as XLV can easily trade within this pattern for another week plus, whereas XBI, it's a much shorter term tight range that we are trading within. So VIX saw a higher open, but then some profit taking. Again, this is not the explosive short covering kind of move that the volatility index bulls are hoping for whenever they're in positions. We have a weekly higher low now established at 1440. The question is, can we break 2340? And I do not foresee that happening in a fast way without any kind of major bearish news. And the kind of major bearish news that causes a 2 to 4% drop in the market very quickly over a couple of days. I don't know what that news would be, but that's what would be required in my opinion. Otherwise, I would anticipate a tightening weekly range looking for a lower high compared to 2340. Oil had a huge bounce day. We confirmed the daily bear flag setup that was there and broke support, but we got zero follow through and the bulls bought that dip aggressively. So when we break support and don't get follow through, we look in the other direction, and now it's up to the bulls to prove something and break 59.55. Tomorrow's going to be a pretty important day in the energy sector. Both oil and natural gas, due to the holiday, have their inventory reports tomorrow. So we've got 59.55 has to break to shift this momentum. Otherwise, it's just a bounce and a 4-hour lower high. So we've got 59.54 key resistance. If we reject, bulls must form a 4-hour higher low compared to 56.88 to try and change the 4-hour trend and get this daily bounce with some follow through. So looking at the weekly time frame for oil, again, what oil is doing definitely has a significant impact to me as to what I'm anticipating the market to do. And as of right now, if oil can get back over this resistance level, that will perhaps help these SPY bulls with their bounce and look back up to that lower high in the 284s. Natural gas bull break today, we had the double bottom at 2531, and then the bull break early this morning over 2606. So now we have the bulls fending off the bear break and the bear trend confirmation. Here's the same thing. We were in a daily uptrend. We lost the daily uptrend. We never confirmed the downtrend with a lower high and lower low. Bulls defended that support. Now we're back in an uptrend. Held support, broke the lower high of resistance. So that's the same situation where we have lost the uptrend, but we weren't in a downtrend, and bulls were able to fend that off. Inventory report is either going to have us test the recent high of 2688 if it's a bull reaction, and if it's a bear reaction, we're looking back down at 2531 as the key support level. That's where we stand overall in the markets. So bears still have the upper hand, knowing that even when we bounce on SPY, we're likely to form an initial daily lower high yet again. And keeping an eye on oil as to whether or not we can get back over that recent resistance of 59.55. So I appreciate you watching. And what do we got here? We're ending it with some more botanical gardens to wrap it up. Note for today is I was reflecting back. I just ended up closing on a house today, and that comes after a whole bunch of visualization of before playing cryptocurrency. I said, I'm going to put all my money in Ethereum, and I'm going to get enough money for a down payment on a house, and it went way better than ever anticipated. But just wanted to touch a bit on positivity. Number one, visualization. I can't tell you how often I'm visualizing how I want something to play out, and then taking the steps towards making that goal reached in terms of how it actually does play out in reality. And also positivity. So positivity is certainly important. And I was just reflecting back on when I first started making videos with the Chart Guys over 4 years ago, and to see how far we've come since then with all of your support and subscribers and messages and all that interaction. But back then I was thinking, I had no idea if anybody cared what I had to say about stocks and trading. I said, yeah, I'll put out some videos and see if anybody cares about them. And when I first started, I was doing it with a Boston accent because I wasn't taking myself seriously. But it was the positive feedback from people early on that really sparked the motivation and the drive that just snowballed into this big community now at this point. And if I had received the opposite, and if I had received people putting me down, of course there's trolls along the way, but if people initially started putting me down and no one gave me that positive feedback, I would have stopped making videos, and I would have traded by myself, and I would have kept farming and doing my own thing, and that would have been that. So how that played out was specifically due to the positive reception that people gave me. So I think about that all the time, generally going through life, whether it's just a tiny little detail, whether it's saying a positive compliment to a stranger about, you know, their cool earrings or whatever it is, just any little way that you can be positive, it can have an impact. The people back then who said, hey, cool video, you know, they probably didn't know that that was providing me the motivation to continue making content to get to the point where I am now. But never knowing what little positive impact you can have on someone else's life means be as positive as you can and as helpful as you can as often as you can, and have that ripple effect out through your surroundings. That's today's note. I appreciate you listening, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.
Bye.